If you guys are looking for a cheap and reliable way to buy your FIFA 23 Ultimate Team coins, then please look no further than FIFAcoin.com. Time is running out, guys. Use the players that you want to. Get yourself over there. And don't forget to use my code Martain for an extra 5% off.
FUT me. FUT me. Well, FUT me. FUT me.
Hello, FUT nerds, and welcome to another installment of the FUT Me podcast, your podcast dealing with all of the lower echelon, casual to skillless players that have to fight through this infuriating Ultimate Team cycle, season, format, and all the things that we end up having to deal with that maybe some others don't, and us complaining about it and bonding over it and crying into our things, and eventually making our way back to the arms of EA, where we eventually continue to feed our addiction by playing their game. So I am your host, TJ, as you know, and I am here to guide you along this journey. I will say, I believe this is episode 34 or whatnot. We got a few more left in this FIFA. We're now less than a month away from the new game releasing either early or officially. So we'll be clearly moving on to that. But before we do that, like a lot of other podcasts out there, I am still playing this FIFA. And so we're going to talk about it, since I can say FIFA for one more time. You may have noticed I've tried some rebranding with the, it used to be Hello FIFA Nerds. We're now to FUT Nerds. I'm trying my best to get ready for that. But that's about it. To be honest, I am not going to say anything else about EAFC 24 or whatever today. We are going to be talking about footies and where we're at. We got a few days left on this season, where things are going, weekend leagues, some player reviews, and just all kinds of stuff that is still actively happening. So I don't have to, think about what might happen eventually. I will save all of my comments on that for the future when it happens. So with that in mind, why don't we get into it? We're going to start out with, everybody's favorite, how you doing? This is my review of how my week has gone. Now, for those of you that have maybe caught episode 29 through 30, whatever, I don't know, last few episodes, you know that this frequently involves me telling you about how frustrated I am, that I've been stuck. Specifically, I was, Division 4, trying to get past or to that first checkpoint was brutal. We finally got, halfway through, and we're still, had some close calls, almost making it to record-breaking, for me, Division 3. And so it was really kind of just stuck, and, there were definitely some glimpses where I was, putting in some really good goals and having some good circumstance, but just weren't able to really kind of finish stuff. And so Wednesday I met with Martain. We went over our, my gameplay, looked at some things, made some suggestions. One suggestion, to be honest, that so this is maybe why people like me are not naturally gifted, although we really enjoy playing games, spend a lot of time on it, but just little things happen that whenever you're like, oh, well, if you do this, it ends up being a game changer. And that's why I cannot, stress enough, whatever level you're at, get some sessions, especially with the way Martin does, with 2 hours, he's gonna find something that can help you out. Maybe you go back to him like I've been doing now, 4 months. Maybe it's 2 or 3 times and you feel like you've reached a spot and you're good. But I'm telling you, and when I tell you what he told me, you're probably gonna be like, you're an idiot. Why weren't you doing that beforehand? Somebody had to tell you that. But keep in mind that there are so many things going on in the game of, in FUT at any given time, where you got like, player quality, their work rates, their star levels, their tactics, what you got them in formation wise. There's all these things that are floating around that sometimes naturally for some people things happen and then it's harder. They struggle on one part, and for me, the part that I struggle on is the mechanical, technical, what I should be doing part. As a matter of fact, large swaths of my time prior to working with Martin was me going to like tactics videos, trying to, learn skill moves or learn this, whether I never really did that, what kickoff glitch, whatever you want to call it. I think I even had an episode where I was like, RT plus crossing is a game changer and things like that, because, that little mechanical thing in that particular week worked out for me, and then, 2 weeks later, it no longer works. That was my, I'm trying to get better at FIFA process, right? And, good, bad, but never did I feel like, nailed it very consistently, like I've really figured something out, right? Whereas, every session with Martin, maybe not, but every few sessions, we definitely seem to see okay, we made some changes here. Now we're trying to implement them more. And then when they get really fully implemented, and I'm doing them like second nature, the difference that it makes in gameplay, right? One thing that I know is the further you move up in divisions, the simplest version is it's all faster decisions, things like that. It's not just ping the ball over the top all the time. That's lower divisions for sure. But it is quickly moving, having a plan, going to a particular position, boom, boom, boom. And before you can react to it, you're already moving forward. That's, how you, that's how you generate goals. And like I said, that's typically been my problem. I'm okay on defense, and then, had a hard time scoring goals, so really focused on that. Well, the last few sessions, my defense has become a point of emphasis. And so in particular, the idea of using a second man press to, sandwich a player where you got icon player that you're controlling from behind, you're using the second man press to kind of try to close that gap, right? And so I started using that to some success. But what we noticed in my gameplay is I frequently allowed my opponent to pass the ball all the way to their player. And then I would be like, oh, I should second press this player that has the ball now, and then hit that. What became a game changer was him just simply saying, hit the button before the ball gets there. Right. If you've listened to me for any length of time, you've definitely heard, and if you played FIFA for any length of time or whatever, there's been a circumstance where you've passed a ball into a forward, and before he even got the ball from behind, a center back just destroys him, takes the ball, and goes away. And you're like, what? How does that happen? And it's frustrating, whatever. And then part two goes through your head, how can I do that? And I, for the life of me, had no idea. Right? I'm like, is it, you have to put them on high pressure? Is it that you have to have your line at 70 plus? I play at 60 stuff on that in terms of running a high line defensively. I just assumed that it was some twist or tweak or full-on thing there that would do that. You know what it is? It's hitting the second man press button while the ball is en route. I feel like a doofus. The difference that this made in my game is unbelievable. So whereas beforehand, I was not a high pressure in your third and try to counter it. I'm very much a possession based, up the sides, put it in, good shot, getting better, more composed in the box. That's kind of was my, what I'm focusing on. That's the gameplay and the, my, game style that I've gone with, right? So within that context, I would, get the ball solid moving up and then, okay, now we're going to play defense and I'd, bend not break kind of a deal and just kind of do that. Now that I've gotten far more aggressive, now that doesn't mean just hold down the right button. You've got to pick and choose, sometimes you have to disengage and re-engage if they pull the right one, wrong one. You also have to know where to take, what happens to me a lot is while I'm doing that, my cursor players just running all over the place because I'm focusing on the ball carrier and I'm thinking about stuff, and then my thumb's just moving my other guy around in any random spot. So a combination of knowing where to put that player that I'm controlling while also second man pressing in my third, and then also just getting on that button quicker whenever they're transitioning from their third has resulted in a number of takeaways in vulnerable spots that have led to easier goals. So my defense is, one, decreased the amount of goals getting in, but two is then increased opportunities that I've had from an offensive point of view. And of course, once you do that and you get into your opponent's head, now it's like, I can't get out of my half. What am I going to do? They panic. They do things faster. They make more mistakes, and it compounds itself, right? So all of that being said is to let you know that I ended up reaching what I at least consider, for me and my goal and for what was going here, the promised land. So I told you last week, fraud alert. The idea behind this podcast originally was for those of us that are at Division 5 and below, right? For all those in the bottom half of the divisions, this podcast is for you. And it still is. To be honest, I spent a good deal of time in the 4s, 5s, and 6s, things like that. And, next year we'll see how this all plays out. I do have a level of confidence and excitement for EAFC 24 that has nothing to do with any content release, has nothing to do with any new game mode or that I can collect all or any of the crap that people have been talking about. I am excited about going into EAFC 24 because I want to see this new mentality / game style / what I've been working on, set it back to start one, day one, and see what happens there, right? It's going to be a whole different thing in terms of team building and players I go after. It's going to change the entire kind of perspective in terms of how I approach next year because of the way I'm playing and nothing else than that. And so I, still believe that I have my finger on the pulse of the, our Div, 7s, 8s, 5s, and 6s out there. But I have to say, I am over the moon being in Division 3. If nothing, you ought to be able to tell from my voice, the tone alone, nonverbal communication, 80% of communication, right? So just, I should sound, relatively excited and pumped up and full of energy and invigorated because reaching that goal, getting to Division 3 was what I really, I was like, if that's attainable, that would be great. And boom, it happened, right? I'm in Division 3. The way that it worked out is I was on that last checkpoint. And as per, I think, probably most people that end up advancing, you win that 3 in a row, right? You win that first game, boom. Not only did I win it, but ended up with a rage quit. I'm like, oh, there we go. Second game, I was up a couple goals at halftime and get a slow rage quit. I'm like, oh my goodness. One more win and here we go. And I'll be darned if I wasn't able to get a second half rage quit out of that one. So from a time in which I was like, I can't get past the first checkpoint, to 3 rage quits into Division 3. Now, there are clearly caveats and qualifiers, right? There's less than 10 days left in the current season, so we're a whole lot of folks that were really good in Division 4 already promoted, things like that. Am I playing a weaker, softer base because other people have already moved on or moved up when it came to division rivals? Probably had a factor. I have a tendency to advance faster towards the end of seasons, and it's hard to imagine that doesn't have to do with either the amount of people playing or the quality of the play. But these are multiple times that I have found myself closing in on Division 3 and never able to kind of finish the job. And I just can't help but think that the hump we overcame in our last session and just the idea of being more rapid when it comes to that. And then the idea, I mentioned this to Martin, I'm like, one of the things we talked about 2 sessions ago was that I should start my left backs or right backs on a run before the ball is even getting over there. They should be going and then I can move, they should already be in motion, right? Whereas frequently last week, I was like, oh, I forgot to get him started, and then would send him on a run. Oh, I forgot to get him started. Whereas like this week I was like, oh, get him on that run, get him on that run. So it was top of mind, but not until I translate that into my mechanical way I do things, wasn't really getting the advantage of it. So I knew it was there, and I knew we could probably do it, but it was like, ugh, and then once you start doing it, and it doesn't seem like it would be that big of a deal, right? Have your left back and right back start their runs earlier. But the cascading effect that such a little thing has is impossible to understand until you're doing it and doing it consistently. Now, every time, no. But you start that run well before over, a couple of things happen. One, your opponent doesn't see it. Like if you do like a give and go, they're like, oh, guys on a run, mark the run. You walk right over by him, and there's two of you by the sudden, and he goes on a run like, oh, I'm going to follow him. Whereas if you start that while the ball's on the other side of the field and that guy starts going and you're able to time it out, one of the most extreme examples of this is I started way early from the other side of the field, which is a trick in of itself. Learning how to be accurate on who you send on a run is half of the battle. So boom, got him sent. He was going, ball's on the right side. He's on the left side, hauling up. Pass it over the middle, pass it one more time. And then before he goes off sides, I'm like, okay, I'm going to send this one over there because I don't think he's being tracked. And not even on my screen, not on his screen, but I know he's running. I can see him on the little radar, and I send him, and it's working. So I just ping a ball over there. I might just, wide open, only one there, anchor a space, look at me, wide open. So little things like that. It's the whole idea of the way German crosses work. And the idea that if you can get somebody on a cross, or not on a cross, you get somebody going on a run, you pass the ball not directly to that person, but to somebody else, and then to the one on the run, you automatically, whether it's FIFA internal, AI crap, or just the way the game works, or human nature, or all those combined, they're way more open. The pass is better to them. They're in an open spot, things like that. So the more that you get people going earlier on runs, the more you can do that. They're not offside, things like that. It changes angles. It'll let you do other stuff. Between that being more natural and immediate with ball rolls and the defensive kind of clamping down had to have been the main three things that I would say would dictate the way I did. My players have all been the same. Still got Rooney up top. Still got Cole. Everybody is good. All the folks are good. Did pick up Zabby. I would recommend maybe talk about some players here in a little bit, including a big thing that just happened to me. But all in all, this groups of sessions that I've had has put me in this position where if I had bought hundreds of dollars in FIFA points and bought packs on packs on packs, I would not be close to sniffing this level. Okay. So for those of you that are on Twitter/X, you might have saw after the Nothing But a Foot Thing podcast Friday show, they had Martain on, and Martain talked about a lot of this stuff, or stuff in general about coaching. And a little bit about, our relationship together and how that's kind of worked out, and, my path and what's been going on, and me documenting it through this thing and all of those things. While listening and, kind of my response was, if you're going to buy FIFA points, which means you're going to spend money on the current game and the current cycle. So not EAFC 24. I'm not telling you don't buy anything for that. You do what you want to do, even though I would still argue that this is going to do you more good. But if you are a person who is contemplating putting any dimes into this game to complete an SBC or to do this or do that, or every week I buy whatever, I would encourage you to just take that $30 and book one session with Martain. Just one, right? If after that you don't want to do it again or whatever, you're like, this is a waste of time, I'm good, fair enough. But I would wager if you bought one, you're going to book more, and that you're going to find that $30 or whatever pounds or whatever kind of part of the world you're in, that you will get your return on investment on that so much at a higher rate than worrying about trying to get a cool player. Now, I understand, like, dude, I love packing stuff. I grind a bunch. A bunch of these 80 plus packs. We'll talk about that when we get there. We're now to the silly port where, you can just keep doing SBCs and things like that. But if you want to make those players perform, if you want to activate them, that's where like this kind of instruction comes. To the point that aside from my Division 3, which is clearly the highlight of my week, once I got there, I was like, woo, I played like 5 games, haven't won a game in Division 3 yet, one because of some crazy lag, couple from some other weird things that happened. And then lastly, the idea that it's just faster and I got to get used to it. These are games that I have lost and I'm okay with it, right? And, various degrees of close, right? But I don't feel like, I'm losing to an inferior player. I feel like the people that I've played so far have all been, quality players that understand the meta that are doing that. It's like, there's that jump from, for those of you that play any other games where you're like trapped in like a bronze or a silver and you're in a team like League of Legends or something, you're like, everybody shucks and drags me down, right? That feeling, it's not a drag us down, but if you're playing in Division 4, 5, 6, you're playing against a weird conglomeration of styles and approaches and effects. And so it can really become frustrating, especially when some of those end up being effective against you. So far in Division 3, it's like I feel like you're playing folks that like, they're serious about FIFA. They're not, they may do a kickoff thing, but that's not what they rely on. It is just an element of the game, and they're going to try to maximize their ability to win. And so I will be giving you some, more feedback on how Division 3 looks. And then, of course, we'll be resetting and going backwards. And, who knows what it looks like for the post-footies couple of weeks. Will we be able to grind the new game within the game? Will there be other things? Well, they're going to release everybody for all the things. So we'll see where it is. I will say that between grinding up through Division 3 and then Weekend League, I have played a ton of football lately, right? Games on games on games. Part of it is like, really like the dope team. I've been able to keep adding folks to it and keep getting better. Packed like team of the year, Van Dyke in like some of these goofy packs. Packed the, team of the season, Ruben Diaz in some of these goofy packs. It's been good. So I've had, a pretty solid team. And so I qualified for Weekend League. Did my bit, got my other little rewards for doing that. And then, my Weekend League strategy is usually 5 games Friday, 5 games Saturday, 10 games Sunday. I actually did, I think, like 3 games on Friday, and I think I got up to 9 games after Saturday and had 11 scheduled for Sunday. And I believe going into that, I had 4 wins. So I was sitting 1 better than usual. Usually after that, I'm at 3. So I'm like sitting at 4. Excuse me. Oh, good grief. At a banner kind of like week, doing well in Division 3, all that stuff. Actually, I finished that up afterwards, but I was starting to get, feel a little bit better there. It made my leeway from the middle at least to like the last checkpoint. So go into Weekend League with relatively high hopes, 11 games for Sunday. Now, some people say Sunday night. I don't have time to do that. And so I had a lot of time to play in the morning and was able to kind of segregate myself out and be able to do it. Last week, I came down to the last game and ended up losing to not get my 9 wins, whereas this week I ended up making it into the same kind of position, but got a rage quit and just kind of destroyed the last player and ended up getting my 9 wins. So got a couple players, no big deal. All of it's SBC-ness, nothing that really like popped and made it, super exciting. So the reason that I was excited is that I got the 9 wins again. It's getting those 9 wins that, those are the parameters and things that I aim at. 10 and 11 are on the agenda, and like maybe that's next year, maybe we get that in the next couple of weeks. We'll see as things kind of continue to ramp up both professionally around here in my life outside of FIFA, as well as the game finishing up and all those things. So but all in all, what a week. I say of all my weeks at FIFA so far, this has got to be one of my, I feel the most fulfilled out of it. I feel like I've accomplished things. I've reached a goal. I don't feel bad about losing in Division 3 for the moment. All of these things just really say that this has been one of my favorite weeks in FIFA. And it's hard for me to not draw a line directly from my sessions and working with Martin to this, right? If you've been listening to me from the jump, God bless you. But aside from that, that I had coaching with, through Gamers Academy with some different people there, nice enough guys. People know what they're doing, but it's not the same, hour long, watch you play live, not the same. I had some sessions through FUT Coaching and John. They provide really good information, but again, it's like you submit, and then a little bit later you get some stuff where they provide you some things, and then you can schedule a call and do all this. And, the elements are there and it's in place, but it's just, for those of us at this level, I found that, if you have the ends, it's more expensive to work with Martin than to also send that in, right? It's a budget thing too. So, but if you have the money to be able, and this is your commitment, this is your hobby or whatever, then this is by far, would be, what I would say the best coaching that I have found. And I would, suggest to anybody, if you can get in on it while he still has some room, I would, try to do that. If you're getting ready for FC24 and you want to know how to, this is it, man. I'm going to go. Like I said, I am excited for the game because of how I am on the sticks and what I've learned in terms of just general philosophy, more so than I have been for any other one. So anyway, that's my week. Very excited. Can't tell you, other than the time when I looked up and I won 9 and hands in the air, you know that when I got that rage quit on Division 3, I was like, is that it? And they did it. And I was like, oh my God, physically was excited at the time. And so, again, super, super pumped, super happy about it. But my gameplay probably only enthralls you to a certain degree. Those of you that support and so forth, and you're all cheering and yelling and popping, tops and throwing little mini trash everywhere, confetti, whatever. Yay. Thank you. I'm excited. You're excited. I'm excited too. But I thought aside from that, I did want to talk a little bit about content, a little bit about some player reviews and some things that happened. Now, before I get into player reviews, I have to say that something happened to me today. I've not had a chance to do anything because it happened on the app. But I completed my 93 plus pack and was given the option of choosing 99 footies Messi. So welcome to the club, premium and premium. So I got to say that 80 pack grind and doing the gold and the silver and the bronze upgrades and all that, and just kind of doing it well, like LJ told me to. LL, not LJ. Anyway, did all that and have now paid off. Theoretically, we'll see. I haven't got a chance to play with him, but I doubt he sucks. So now Insigne has made his way to the bench, and we're going to try a little striker Messi or Cam Messi and see how that plays with the rest of the team. So super excited about that. I used the Xavi Alonso loan card to get my Division 3 promotion, and then decided, because look, I hate loan cards. I don't like them in my club. I typically don't use them. Even like this year, I'm like at the beginning of the game, I was like, I got to use these loan cards. But then I'm all like, man, if I use them, then I can't use them when I need to use them. And now here we are, 4 weeks left in the game, and I got just loads of freaking loaners in my team. So I'm like, I'm going to, I want to do this Xavi, SBC, but there's a loaner here. So let's grab him, stick him in the team, see what happens. And ran him out. And by the time I ran him out, I was able to complete the rest of them. And so he is now a permanent addition to the squad. Hanging out there in the middle. with Park. And then I've still got Son and Cole playing in my cam positions. And now, like I said, Insigne is going to take a back seat to 99 Messi with the Bulldog up top with Rooney. My center backs have changed a little bit, but not really. Kubayali still makes it in there. Diego Carlos still one of those that it's hard to get him out of there. So I did end up packing the 98 Allison. So I've replaced my Team of the Year Courtois, who had 1,145 games on him, which is by far the player with the most games. I packed him out of Team of the Year and have used him constantly. So, club legend, he is now getting some rest and relaxation on the reserve bench and in the club while I let Allison kind of take on some of those duties. So, Carlos and Llorente on the right and left back still, doing the business, bringing in folks off the bench. Haven't really got to play that Chiesa very much, even though he's on the bench, some places like that. So, got to say, what a week, right? From a from a gameplay stance, getting to Division 3, getting 9 wins at this stage of the cycle, I think speaks volume. I think this means that I feel really confident moving into next year. Ended up packing the most valuable card that I have packed all year long. I think I looked that Messi card, like if he was tradable, $7.5 million. I don't have any other mill-based cards floating around in there. So, looking forward, to that. So it's been a real payoff. It's like when it rains, it pours. When the FIFA gods want to shine on you, it's like they really do. And when they want to rain on you, man, is it a storm of, So, all in all, this week is not a FUT Me week, right? This has been like a FUT awesome week. But still, I know that is not true for everybody. And so I guess if there were a couple things just to kind of finish up where we're at, if you are still frustrated and you can't do things like that, just understand that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. There is a way to get better from where you're at right now. And that improvement is going to be, for some of you, if you're like me, far more rewarding than any digital element or things like that, which is why, again, I'm like, embrace the idea of being able to get some coaching and some assistance. It would be amazing just to have somebody else. Look, if you're a great speaker, you practice your speech to somebody else and take their feedback. If you're great at playing basketball, you watch film and you figure out what you could do better. You aren't just watching your opponents, you're also watching yourself. And so maybe if you're like, hey, TJ, look, you're rolling in it with all this podcast money and all this other stuff. Like you just throw, you get like coaching and limos and whatever else because of your social media presence. I can't do that. Like, what could I do? Record gameplay, go back and watch it. Look, I know it takes time. I know when I'm watching a game, I'm not playing a game, right? When I go home on Wednesday, 2 hours are set aside to just talk and look at FIFA, and I don't end up playing it, right? That means that's 2 hours. I'm not grinding or opening packs or doing whatever, but the overall payoff of that is huge. So you watch the games, you identify like, oh, I screwed that up. When a goal happens, why did that goal against you happen? Where was the ball stolen? Where was it stolen? Was there a bad decision up here 3 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago, game-wise, maybe 30 seconds, that then led to that? And what can you do to prevent those types of things? Are you losing the ball repeatedly? Like this is my version of FIFA, is that I kept being like, so mad because I would go, and then I would push the ball in the middle and it would be dislodged and they would just stay like, oh my God, I can't get anything. Why can't this work? Why won't this work? Why can't this? I mean, I am doing the thing that is the definition of insanity. Same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Like, maybe it'll work this time. Well, maybe it'll work this time. Having somebody, even you, look and be like, oh, stop doing that. Just do something other than that is going to be a starting place, right? So if you can't, go get that. Maybe just look at some of your gameplay. If you're like, how do I record it? just stream it onto Twitch and then go to Twitch and you can watch all your stuff back. It automatically records it, saves it there. You don't have to worry about trying to save it on the Xbox, stuff like that. So lots of different ways. You can go online, look up different ideas. But again, I have to say that kind of reflection, having somebody else reflect and help that knew what they were doing certainly matters. But even if you don't have that, just kind of maybe looking back might be something to think about. This, clearly this podcast, this particular episode has been all about, go get coaching. Martine is great. But if you think about it, this entire series has been like me being like, I suck at FIFA and I would like to get better. And here's how I'm going to try it. And some of it worked and some of it didn't. And so, it's trial and error with everything. And next week I might be on there being like, oh God, stuck, can't get out. Wish I would have never advanced. Or, the reset, like, oh, thought I'd be cruising up, can't cruise up. Like, I don't know what the future holds, but I do know that based on the past and where I'm at the present, that having that kind of coaching, having that support has made this one of the most enjoyable FIFAs, regardless of content or gameplay or servers or any of that junk that I played so far since, being a almost FUT founder, since 2014 or whatever it was. So, anyway. So that is it. This is an extended period because I was excited and wanted to talk about stuff. So hopefully, you too found that entertaining and, are excited about it. Maybe, a little bit of inspiration by osmosis. But, I would encourage you to keep plugging along and know that there are things that you can do. And if you are frustrated, maybe, step back, but that, there could be just a different place. You don't have to always go back. Maybe it's just to the left or the right. Look at it a little differently. Try something a little differently. Not necessarily a different tactic. Not necessarily a different player. This is not a get-rich-quick type of a scheme. We want to find fundamental things that make us better. And if you don't, well, FUT me.